The final round, round 27, is about to start. We are ever so close to those playoff finals, so let's get picking the last round. And first, let me address, this is my worst week of tipping. It has been a shocker, absolute shocker. Now, we started on Thursday, Cowboys versus Storm. And yes, Storm were resting players, and I thought maybe they will still have enough to beat a Cowboys side. They didn't. But it was close. It was only one try and conversion that was the difference. So I'm not completely embarrassed by my decision, even though I knew they would be resting players. So the first game, I get absolutely nothing. Ouch. This is a running trend, by the way. Because the next game, Friday the 30th, was Bulldogs versus Seagulls. I went for a Seagulls win. No, sorry. I went for a Bulldogs win by 6. Seagulls won by 12. So I get absolutely nothing for that as well. That has now cemented Seagulls' place in the top 8. But it is very, very tight for the 8th spot. That's just all I'm going to say at the moment. Then, this is the one I did get right. My Panthers, I wish they did this before. Panthers versus Rabbitohs. Confident, easy win against a poor Rabbitohs side. I did Panthers by 22. And they won by 22. Well done to them. That puts us back into second place, if I am correct. Good. That's what we want. Next was Eels versus Dragons. And wow, this was a high-scoring game. 44-40. Were they only playing like 5 aside or something? Because there must have been so much space. I did Dragons to win by 8. Eels won by 4. Like, what is going on? That was... Dragons really needed that win against an Eels side who was their best chance of getting a win right at the death. But they bottled it, basically. I'm using this term quite a bit at the moment. Next up, Dolphins versus Broncos. And, yeah, can you guess the theme? Broncos have messed it up. This was another one which was... I know Dolphins were ahead of... Well, Dolphins were close to them, but it was still a decent chance for Broncos to try and make the top 8. And they've messed it up. They have messed it up. This is basically a game of who's messing it up. I did Broncos to win by 10. Dolphins won by a massive 34. So again, nothing. These are some weird results. That's all I'm going to say. Some weird results this week. Next was Sharks versus Warriors. God. And I did Sharks by 18 and Warriors won by 2. Just, what is going on? I get absolutely nothing. Warriors are down and out. They're not going to go up. They're not making the top 8. No way. Sharks, maybe they were resting players as well. I don't know. But idiots, honestly. Stupid Sharks. Nothing for me there. Then it was Knights versus Titans. At least this one I predicted the result to be correct. I did Knights to beat the Titans by 12. They actually won by 22. So 1 point for me there. And that puts Knights in 9th with that chance to make the top 8. It is very, very tight. 1, 2, 3, 4. If those are correct, I'll double check in a minute. Then, last game was Roosters versus Raiders. Roosters have been so good all season. And they lost to the Raiders by 2 points. And so I did them Roosters to win by 18 and I get absolutely nothing. So, the league table after that absolutely insane week. We have no change in the top 2. Adelaide Bulldog is still top by 0.66. Brupel is second by 2.44. And then you've got Ajubi up 2. Hacksaw's gone down 1. Kazaraza up 1. Coolbajul is down 2. It's slipping a little bit for him. And then everyone stayed the same. Now Mad Swans fan is in the top 10. Let's see where I am as well. AU Beach Bum up 3. Look, there's small movement here. New Elijah gets the golden hat and is up 3, breaking the top 20. I am now out of the top 20 because I have gone down 3, which is understandable. I'm amazed I didn't go down more than that because, well, I assume other people had shockers as well. Surely no one got a full house last week. Okay, let's keep going. Anyone else with big movement? No, not really. Ajax up 4. The wooden spoon goes to Kobe Power 2012. And that is where everyone finished last week. Okay, so let's get picking the last week. On Thursday the 5th at Suncorp Stadium, AEW Wrestling is going there next year. Maybe it's a trip to Australia next year. Anyway, it is Broncos versus Storm. Now, it's a tricky one because Broncos, I'm pretty sure, they are not going to make the top 8 now. They are now 2 points off. So they could, because they're on minus 32 point difference. Dolphins on 7. No. Don't think so. And when you look at Storm, they have now pretty much won the league. Is it a case now where they rest players again? Or do they want to get some momentum ready for the playoff finals? That's the tricky question. I just think Broncos have let themselves down big time. They had chance after chance after chance. And it's game over for them. It is game over for them. Storm obviously lost last week, but they did rest players and they only lost by 6 points. But I see them turning this around this week for sure. I think Storm should win this. They want to get that momentum surely for the playoffs. So, Storm, let's go Storm by 10. That takes into account a little bit rested players, but also getting the result there. So, Storm by 10. Next up, Campbelltown Sports Stadium. Wests versus Eels. Now, what a shock result Eels got last week against a team that needed to win, really. Wests, they obviously 2 wins in a row, but I don't know. I think both teams are pretty poor. Both teams on 18 points at the bottom of the table. There isn't a lot to separate them, but I think it's only about pride, isn't it? Yeah. What do you call here? I think I've got to go with Eels. Looking at their result last week, which was pretty impressive, I'm going to go with Eels here. I'm going to go Eels. Let's go Eels by 8. Yeah, Eels by 8. But that's a really difficult one to call because there's nothing to play for anymore. Both teams are both bottom of the table. It's a tricky one to pick. Really is. It could go either way, to be honest. Next up, Stadium Australia in Sydney. It is Rabbitohs versus Roosters. Rabbitohs, 3rd from bottom, 20 points. And Roosters, they are in 3rd with 36. So they could potentially overtake Panthers if Panthers don't get the result they want into 2nd. There's got to only be one result here. It was a shock result last week for Roosters to lose. But they should have enough to see off a Rabbitohs side who hasn't won in 7 games. Their last win was 7 games ago. So really poor form, really poor performances this year, apart from one little mini spell that they had. So once again, talk about momentum. Roosters are wanting to have momentum going into the finals. And so therefore I expect them to win. Let's do Roosters. I'm giving cagey results. Let's do Roosters by 14. I said I'm being a little bit cagey, not going over the top because I don't necessarily think teams want to overexert themselves. They may be resting players. These teams are already in the finals. So Roosters by 14. Next up at Nostrata Jubilee Stadium in Sydney, Dragons versus Raiders. Now, Dragons, they are in 10th on 28 points. Minus 124, really not good. And Raiders, they are in 11th on 28 points, minus 129 point difference. So not great at all. Dragons, I think, blew it. Yeah, this is the problem. I think, I say they blew it. Have they blown it? If they win, Dolphins need, basically, a lot of teams now need Dolphins to lose, I think. But they also need Knights to lose. So there's 2 teams they need to sort of lose. So it's going to be interesting still. Dragons, Raiders. Raiders had better form recently. Raiders obviously got a fairly shock result last week. I don't know. Raiders have been poor. To be fair, Raiders, I don't know how Ricky Stewart is still managing them, because they have had a poor season. And even if they got a small chance still of the finals, it's just poor. Really, really poor. I think Raiders might win this. I'm going to go with a Raiders win. Still very difficult. So many of these games in the last week are really difficult to call. But I'm going to go with a Raiders win by 4. Close one. Let's go with a close one. Next, Stadium Australia, Bulldogs versus Cowboys. Both teams really, really good form. Both teams are in the finals. It's basically, I think they're pretty much there in 5th place, 6th place, that sort of position. They are now in there, no problem at all. There's not much between both these teams now, is there? No difference in points. Obviously, Bulldogs have got a much better shot difference, which is good. I think I'm going to go with a Dogs win. I think Cowboys have a slight struggle with just staying switched on. So I think I'm going to go with Bulldogs here, but another tight margin. I think a tight margin is fair for these two sides who are pretty inseparable this year. So I'm going to go with a Dogs win by 4. By 4 as well. Another close one. Yeah, another close one. Okay, next up, Bluebet Stadium in Penrith. This is the chance to keep that momentum for Panthers, who obviously lost 2 games back-to-back. Came last week, got a decent win, and now they're facing Titans. Titans do have a habit of beating the better teams, but they should not beat Panthers. We cannot let them beat Panthers. I think Panthers facing Titans last week is a good one for Panthers, for sure. It gives them that opportunity to get the result. It's been an interesting year, hasn't it, for Panthers? Because they started fairly slow, which makes sense. That seems to happen. They had to head over to England to face Wigan in the World Challenge Cup. And then they seemed to start slow. So they were chasing the top, chasing the Sharks for ages, now chasing Storm. But it has been an interesting one. But let's forget about that. They want the momentum now. They should beat Titans. And this is going to be, hopefully, a big win. So let's go Panthers by 22. This is what we need ready for the playoffs. A big, big win to try and get Panthers the 4th title in a row. Okay, next up at Four Pines Park in Manly. Sea Eagles got a fantastic win last week against a Sharks side who did not. Sharks have also had a weird season because they've been right up there and then all of a sudden they just couldn't win a game. And the fact they're still in 4th is pretty amazing, to be fair, with the run of bad form that they went on. I just don't think Sharks seem to have that strong mental fortitude, and I think that's what's going to cost them. Losing last week to the Warriors is bad. They should not have lost to the Warriors. And they fell apart in the second half. I think Seagulls, pretty good form. I think Seagulls can capitalise on that. Seagulls potentially now get into the 5th or 6th position potentially, which doesn't make much difference really. But I think Seagulls can go on and win this. And so I'm going to go Seagulls by 8. Yeah, Seagulls by 8. Then the final game, it is McDonald Jones Stadium. It is Knights versus Dolphins. A fantastic win by the Knights last week. And a good win for the Dolphins last week as well, to be fair. Both Knights still have the chance, I think. And so do Dolphins. This is a brilliant game. This should be the interesting game of the week because both still have the chance. It should be a big crowd here because this is whoever wins makes the top 8. That's just how it is, right? Dolphins, brilliant, beating Broncos last week, keep the top 8 spot. But this is going to be a brilliant game. Really is going to be a brilliant game. And who is going to win it? Who is going to win it? I'm going to go with the home team. Slightly better form. They had a good win last week. Knights. Knights by 6. That is the game of the week right there. So my predictions for the week: Storm by 10, Eels by 8, Roosters by 14, Raiders by 4, Bulldogs by 4, Panthers, the big win, by 22, Seagulls by 8, and Knights by 6. A week where some of the results, who knows which way they're going to go. We had shocks last week. We're probably going to have shocks again this week. But this is now all about trying to just get that little bit of momentum going into the playoff finals. I don't know. I could get it completely wrong again. Who knows? I could get it completely right. It's fascinating. The final week, like I said, that Knights versus Dragons game. Interesting that that's the last game of the week, because that is the crucial game, isn't it? To make the top 8. That is the only game that really matters now. Fascinating stuff. And once again, thank you so much for joining me. You guys have been amazing again, and thank you. That's all I've got to say. And if you want to give back, then all you have to do, like and subscribe, and I will catch you next week.